Welcome back. After 3 months in the yard and lots of boat work, Skua is ready to cross an ocean. We can finally set off towards the Caribbean. Good morning! It is launch day. We're so excited. We just spent 2 days tidying Skua up so that she doesn't look as disgusting as she was, because in this yard there's lots of gravel and the amount of salt spray that we get from the harbour wall is just unreal. But we're all ready to go. It's 7:45 a.m. and the yard people are going to put Skua in the slings at 8 a.m, so just 15 minutes to go. I'm sorry I disappeared from the videos while Ryan was doing the boat works. I was doing basically everything else that you've got to do, so just working to make the money and cleaning, cooking, food shopping, everything else, so that he could focus his energies on the works. But I'm back. Before going back in the water, the yard workers allowed us to anti-foul the bits of Skua's keel that we couldn't access while she was propped up. We're back in! Whee! How does it feel?
Strange. It feels like we're really low down. There's this old kitty wake as well, where it feels like you're sat like almost in the water kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice.
All went smooth, huh?
Yeah, all went fine. Now we're going to get on with the rest of our jobs. Going to service the engine and sort out the autopilot.
Need to tune the
provision
rig.
And tune the rig.
Yeah.
We've got lots to do.
Lots to do. Ryan's just serviced the engine and now he is polishing our diesel from October, so it's 3 months old. And I have been organising our medical kit. Got a huge spreadsheet with what everything is. And yeah, I think we are ready for any apocalypse. Definitely have enough. We then bled the autopilot and bought some provisions.
Today, as one of the last things we do before we go, we've been tuning the rig, so getting all the standing rigging to the correct tensions and the mast straight up and in column, which means without any bends in it. So I've been doing that on our boat since we set off. We've never had our rig tuned by a professional. I've always done it myself because I like to be able to do stuff like that in case we need to do it where we haven't got access to a professional, and obviously to save money as well. It's just good to know your boat. But what I do, it's not really intended as a how-to, it's just kind of like what we do and what I've learned over the time that I've been tuning our rigs. So the first part is to loosen all the rigging to about hand tight or a little bit less than hand tight, just so that when you do adjustments the mast actually kind of moves around rather than being held by all the other rigging. And you don't want it too loose though, so that it's just like flopping around all over the place. And then you need to get the masthead exactly centered where it needs to be. So that's done using the cap shrouds and the head stay and back stay, basically all the wires that run up right to the top of the mast. And you adjust those in pairs to try and get the masthead exactly centered over the mast step. For some boats you obviously need the mast to be leaning back or raked, but for our mast, because of the way the boat was built, it needs to be more or less exactly vertical. So that's fairly easy to judge if you look at the boat from the side, but being quite exactly left and right or port and starboard, you have to kind of like do something to measure that. So you can either send a long tape measure up to the top of the mast and then measure to, say, the top of the Genoa tracks at a particular chain plate, or you can, if your boat is quite level, like the hull of it is quite level in the water, or put on the hard very level, then you can use like a plumb bob, but it also needs to not be very windy for that, because then obviously it'll blow it to one side or the other. So once you've got the masthead in the right position, what we do is basically work our way down the mast, so adjusting the wires in pairs, getting them to the right tension that we want using a tension gauge, and once we're at the bottom, just go around all the wires and just check that they're all still at the right tension, because as you put more and more tension on different pairs as you go down, the tension on the top pair, for example, will get less just as everything tightens up. So that's what I've been doing today. Maybe it took me 2 hours, but it was worth it, and obviously we needed to tune the rig because of the putting the external chain plates on, and all the rigging has been replaced. So yeah, just something to bear in mind is that when you tighten in pairs, if you tighten one side, then the other side will get tighter, because it will basically pull the mast in a kind of triangle, so each pair is kind of dependent on the other one. And because we've re-rigged after so many miles, like probably by the time we get to the Canaries, the rig would have stretched a tiny bit, so I'll probably have to put a couple more turns on everything. And yeah, I found having a tension gauge is pretty much a necessity. Trying to do the thing where you tape a tape measure to a wire and try and measure 2mm extension over a meter or whatever is just too impractical. Tape measure blows around, you can't really measure 2mm very easily, especially not in a way that gives you a decent gauge on the tension. So buying a proper tension gauge, like a loose gauge, or the one we've got I think was about 40 or 50 euros, so easily worth it. Save you loads of hassle and frustration. We're about to leave Almerimar finally. Feels like we've been here forever. And
it's only been 3 months.
yeah, it feels like about a year we've been here. But yeah, either way, we're really rusty. We came in the dock fine the other day, but I don't know, there's something that's making us feel a bit nervous about going out to sea and docking at the fuel berth and all this kind of stuff. But I'm sure it'll be fine. We just early season nerves, I think.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot less stressful if we weren't setting off directly from here to the Canaries as the first passage after 3 months of no sailing, but I'm sure it'll be fine. There's no big winds forecast, and hopefully we didn't forget anything important. We docked at the fuel pontoon to get some diesel, and then we were off. It feels so good to be out on the water and to be sailing again. It's a gorgeous day, it's pretty warm, so it's easy to love life today. And yeah, it was worth working 7 days a week for the last 3 months. Totally worth it, and I'm feeling very, very lucky and excited. We really didn't think we could pull this off when we had the chain plates pull out, realized we needed to re-rig the boat, and realized that the copper coat was going to take a lot longer to scrape off than we thought. And of course we had the accident and the insurance claim and everything else, and there's been quite a few times when we seriously doubted we'd be able to go to the Caribbean, but We were a little late, but trade winds blow and they're fine. December till April, so it's now, what date? 2nd of February. It looks like we're gonna have a light wind passage to Gibraltar, but it's going to be worth it because we then are able to catch a really good weather window to go down to the Canary Islands. And the weather has been quite unsettled on the Atlantic for the past month or so, so we really don't want to miss that. We really need to make it.
This passage to Gibraltar is a bit of a tricky one for the Med because it's one of the only places where there's much current or tide to worry about. So we're going to have a bit of a strategy. We're going to stay north of the Strait of Gibraltar, basically sheltering ourselves from the current, which is generally east going, and also that means that we'll stay well away from the main shipping lane, which kind of runs through the Strait of Gibraltar and along the North African coast. So we should be well out of that, kind of tucked in between the headlands of Spain and Gibraltar. And yeah, hopefully that means that we'll be able to just make decent progress because we won't have a knot and a half of current against us, and it should give us a more peaceful, easier time. Normally we'd prefer to go offshore away from the coast because it means that there's less traffic around. It's about 130 miles, so we should be there tomorrow afternoon.
Raising the sails for the first time of the year was a fantastic feeling. We felt like we were free again. And just when we thought the day couldn't get better, we spotted dolphins coming over to play with Skua's bow.
Today has been exactly what we needed, I think. It's been really hectic since we've been on shore. All our time doing the boat work has been really busy, and Ellen has been doing tons of work, and it's just been really full on because I've basically been doing boat work full time, which means Ellen has been doing everything else. which is probably harder because you're not just concentrating on one thing at a time. But it's been incredible today, just like a complete change of pace. Like in the past 3 months we haven't just like sat and chatted or watched the sunset or anything like that, because we've just been like going at it and then like knackered in the evening. So yeah, we've both been really enjoying today. Spent a lot of time just sat on the front deck, a lot of time just chatting in the cockpit, a lot of time just not doing much really, which has been perfect. Now I'm gonna do my first attempt at doing a set of star sights with the sextant. But as you can see over here, there's land to the north, so I've only really got the southern horizon, so it'll be a bit of practice really, because ideally, like when you're taking a 3-point fix of like I don't know, landmarks between islands or something, you ideally want like them separated by 120 degrees, but obviously I won't be able to achieve that because that horizon won't be very useful. So yeah, I'll probably get Venus and the moon as well, as they're both up, and yeah, should be good.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know if I will ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down.
It's my first night watch of this year, and it's really nice. It's not too cold, and yeah, I've got 3 hours on. I had 3 hours off after dinner, now I've got 3 hours on. We keep going like this for another 2 watches, so until the sun rises, and then we swap to 6-hour watches so that during the day we have a proper chance to chill out in case we didn't sleep throughout the night. And this is basically a test for our Atlantic crossing to see if this method works.
Jumping from cliffs so high, trusting our wings to fly. Sometimes we're crashing.
Good morning everybody. The sun's just come up and we're in sight of the Rock of Gibraltar and of Africa. The last time we saw Africa was when we were heading east into the Med on Kittiwake a few years ago, so it's nice to kind of recross that path. The Med's kind of been like a massive loop for us with a boat change in the middle, so now we're on the way out. It feels like we're going to somewhere completely different, and yeah, into a different bit of the ocean where we've never really been before, which is pretty exciting. I think it'll be quite different from the Med in terms of the sailing, so we're both quite keen to get out there and get down to the Canary Islands, explore them a little bit, and then get ready for the big crossing to the Caribbean, which is something else that's really exciting because we've never been anywhere where there's like really good underwater life, and we're both quite sort of into snorkeling, freediving, maybe doing a bit of diving if there's a dive shop. So we're both pretty excited to be living on a boat there. But for now we're just concentrating on getting through the Strait of Gibraltar because there are some tides there to deal with. The perfect time to go through would be 2 o'clock this afternoon, and I think we'll be just about perfectly on time for that, going through the narrowest bit. I'll try and show you a bit of Africa and the rock, but because they're quite far away they don't really come up that well on this camera, but we'll see. That's Africa there. I guess that's part of the Atlas Mountains. And Gibraltar is over here. It looks tiny on the camera, but it's just that big rock there.
We are just passing Gibraltar, so getting out of the med. Woohoo! It feels really, really good. As we left the Rock of Gibraltar behind, Skua cut through the first waves of the North Atlantic Ocean. In front of us, there was only a huge expanse of blue, an endless horizon. We were finally out of the Mediterranean Sea, and we felt like we were bringing Skua back home, to the ocean. As we passed through the straits, we realized that if we kept going, we'd have to cross the busy shipping lanes in the darkness. So we decided to anchor in Tarifa to get a decent night's sleep instead. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our videos, consider supporting our production on Patreon or buying us a beer via PayPal. Join us next time as we sail on to the Canary Islands.